Test. 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 Test.
Bradley, are we live?
10 seconds.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Finance Committee for the Upland City Council. And it's March 30th. Let's have roll call, starting with Kevin.
Here.
Philip? Philip Teeters, Kevin Webb? Russell Moore? David Leon?
Present.
Oh, can you put the...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Present.
Councilman Garcia?
Present.
Treasurer Bradley? Here. Stephen Parker?
I am here.
Julio Gonzalez, is that right? Morales, close.
Close. I'm here.
And we have Jeff Land.
Yes, present here.
And, we have to. Okay, we're just getting our technical situation settled out. Thank you, Councilmember Carlos. So, Stephen Parker, do you want to introduce the topic for today?
Certainly, thank you, Chair. So the item before you today, we only have one. We did call a special meeting from the time sensitivity of it. So the city was apprised that there was an opportunity to refinance a community facilities district up at the colonies that had the opportunity to save over $600 a year on the fees that are being paid on the property taxes by a certain group of homeowners
And that's per person, right?
per residence.
Yeah.
So it makes fiscal sense. The city itself doesn't gain anything, but we are a conduit in this process. And we wanted to present both the financing team and the approach and get support for that from you guys before we went to the city council for approval. And so the item that will be presented, I believe, Julio, are you going to be presenting this today?
I was going to do a quick summary and then hand it over to Jeff to give
Go.
more details on the financing.
So I'll set it up, give it to Julio, he'll set it up, and then we'll pass it for the real work.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman and members of the Finance Committee. It is good to see you again in person. My name is Julio Morales. I am one of the financial advisors at Urban Futures Incorporated, which is the financial advisor to the city. We are contemplating doing a CFD financing, and many will know it by its other name, Mello-Roos. So this is a tax that's imposed on the homeowners when they purchase the home or when they're first purchased to help pay for infrastructure, the streets and roads that you see, schools and the like. So it lowers the initial target price for the home and is paid for by the owners of the home as they use that entity. This special tax is collected in conjunction with the property tax. What I love about going to a council or finance committee about a CFD refinancing is it is a direct rebate back to those individual homeowners. So their property tax will be lowered on average $600 per year on average, about $6,600 over the life of the issue. So, yes.
Is this the same as a Mello-Roos?
Yes, it is. That's exactly the term.
That's the term that most people are used to hearing, so thank you for that.
In fact, the law community facilities district actually has Mello and Roos were the ones who authored that language. So you'll see it. This is a Mello-Roos deal. It's a Mello-Roos bond. They're lowering the Mello-Roos taxes on there, and it is callable like most bonds. And what we're going to do is refinance it. And what we do, we call it a high to low refinancing. And Jeff here is going to talk to the process that we did. We're doing it, one last thing, through a private placement loan. And the primary advantage of a private placement loan, and this is the same thing that we're doing on our water bond issue, is that we can do a rate lock. And as you know, the markets are volatile right now. So the advantage is we can get the rate today as opposed to having to wait another 60 days to lock in those rates. So from there, if you have any other questions about the specific rates or who were actually the bank that we're utilizing, Jeff is going to talk to us about the process they went through to solicit bids. But are there any questions at this moment?
Ron, this is the first time I've seen something like this. We have a number of the
CFDs.
Sorry. We have a number of those that we have approved, but I've not seen a refinancing and the rates have been changing. Is this the first time it's been an opportunity for this refinancing?
I believe we've done a few of these in the past few years for you. I think 2 or 3. I don't have that exact number because Doug was the one who worked on those, but I don't know if it's 2 or 3.
And it came before the Finance Committee? That's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I haven't seen it at the Finance Committee.
Yeah, no, the Finance Committee was used in a limited scope in the past, and since I've been here, I'm trying to have more things be utilized and going through the Finance Committee, both for information and transparency, and also just the ability to go a little bit more in depth here that makes the council meetings a little bit more smoother when they can rely on the 2 council members that have done that deeper dive.
And also the public, and particularly the colonies, because I made notifications to them that this is happening now, so anybody that lives there and is affected by it, they know that this is going on. And by the way, I just came back from the dentist with a crown, and if I sound like my speech is slurry, like I have Bell's palsy, it's because I have no feeling here.
What is the current rate on that? What's the current rate on the bond?
They had a series of rates of coupons that range from 2 to 5%. So the blended rate is about 3.75, I think, if I recall, but
Well, it taps out about 5%.
yeah.
Was the idea to call the higher interest bonds, the whole thing, and then issue a new bond? Do we have,
Yeah,
I was going to ask, do we have the money to call?
Yeah, so the way, it's a refinancing, so, your 2012 special tax bonds are eligible for refinancing on September 1st of 2022. So this actually connects also to your question about, has this been done before? Can we do this more often? This was eligible for the refinancing, so that's why it was selected, meaning that, you have a certain period of time in which you can refinance.
Typically, if you recall that 10-year call feature we talk about in other workshops, so it's been 10 years, 2012, 2022, the 10-year period has expired, and now you're able to refinance.
Okay.
So will you touch on what we currently have in place and why we're doing this, so our residents can hear that, what we're actually even covering?
The full debt profile of all your CFDs, or just the?
You are simply refinancing the rate. This is just like any mortgage refinancing, same property, but they have a tax that's imposed on each homeowner, has an individual additional tax imposed on that that actually the developer imposed when they sold the home. And that paid for all these improvements. Now, what we're doing is simply refinancing that additional tax. It's anywhere about a $375 down to about a $275, and they're now saving about $600 a month each. So you are facilitating a process so they can save money on their property taxes.
And it's not going to be tacked on at the very end, right, or anything?
No. You're just literally lowering the payment.
You said $600 a month. Is it $600 a month or $600 a year?
I wish.
No,
My apologies.
I get it, but I just wanted to clarify.
It's $600 annually. My apologies if I.
No, don't apologize. I make mistakes too, but I just.
So what is the term of the new loan? Does it mirror the maturity of the old?
Yes, it does. We
extension
do not,
credit?
we're not, so a couple things that we're doing here. We are keeping the maturity the same, so we're not extending it. So the final maturity will be September 1st of 2034. Another thing that we're able to do, because we are utilizing a direct placement method of sale as opposed to going to the capital markets, is we are reducing the reserve fund that needs to be held. So when you issue special tax bonds, you have to put up a debt service reserve fund to cover in the event of default. We have a small reserve fund on this, but it has been dramatically reduced. By dramatically reducing that reserve fund, we are able to contribute that to your refinancing, which ups the savings per property owner. So that's one measure that's being taken with this refinancing to maximize savings.
So is the rate fixed, and who is the borrower? Is it the city or a department of the city, and is there a prepayment penalty?
What's that?
It's a conduit financing. So you, as the city, issue the bonds as the public financing authority, and you issue the bonds on behalf essentially of the property owners. They impose a tax on themselves. This is not a liability of the city. So that's an important thing to say. It is not a liability of the city. If something happens to that homeowner, they don't pay their tax, you are not on the hook for that. However, what you are doing is facilitating this process. In the first place, in 2012, you issued bonds, these CFD bonds, which you have to do through a local agency. And now, secondly, 10 years later, when you're eligible to refinance, you're refinancing them at savings with the same basic terms, just lowering the interest rate on the bonds. Now, having said that, I'm going to hand over to Jeff, and he can talk about the bidding process. And
Yeah, so you asked about the lender. So I'd like to, at this time, go over the process that we took to identify lenders, and we are going to present those findings now. So when we do a direct placement, that is different than from issuing bonds because it's a direct loan with an institutional lender. So that lender in this case would be banks. So in our capacity at Oppenheimer, we function in the role of placement agent. We send out, we develop a lender RFP. We distribute that RFP to our portfolio of banks that we work with on a regular basis. So the RFP for the city of Upland for the special tax refunding was sent to 18 banks. And over a 2-week process, they reviewed the credit, and we received 6 bids. So 6 banks decided to provide us with term sheet proposals. What's interesting about this is it really is indicative of where the market is, that we have a very clear out-front winner. There's one bank right now that's offering interest rates that are significantly lower than the rest of the market. And so I can just one by one kind of go through, let you guys get a sense of the market that we canvassed, who participated, and then who came in with the lowest rate, unless you guys have a question leading up to that. Okay. So as I said, we received 6 bids. The lowest bid came in from First Foundation Bank. Is anyone familiar with First Foundation Bank? They have a presence in Irvine. They are they're not like they're not a massive bank. They really operate on a regional level. And a lot of the banks that we work with they're not community banks, but they are regional banks that have a public finance division. So this is certainly different than going out and getting any sort of commercial loan. We are working with the specific public finance groups of these banks that have a practice related directly for cities. So First Foundation Bank came in with the lowest rate. We also received bids from KeyBank. KeyBank came in at an interest rate of 3.14%. We received a bid from City National Bank that came in with a bid of 3.35%. We got a bid from Pacific Western Bank at 3.10%. Signature Bank came in at 3.02%, and Truist Bank came in at 3.15%. So I like to do the drum roll. First Foundation Bank came in at 2.74%. So that really gives you a sense of how wide that range is. I mean, the range was 2.74 to 3.35. That's why you do an RFP process.
And the cover bid was 302?
And the cover bid was 302. But this process is a very direct example of why you should never just solely negotiate with one bank. Because what if you had just negotiated with the highest and you didn't even know that there were an offer out there for 2.74?
And you think the current rate is like effective 3.75, somewhere around there, the effective current rate?
No, well, the current rate is, he's talking about on the 2012 bonds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm guessing that's the TIC because it's 2 to 5 coupons. I don't have the calculation, but did you have the savings number on there?
We don't have the full savings numbers, but we certainly can provide that. We believe that I think at this point in the 2012 bonds, it's going to be even higher because you're on the back end of them, because when you issue bonds, as opposed to doing a direct placement, which is one interest rate for the entire life, when you go out and do bonds in the public markets, it escalates. So it's a fixed schedule that escalates. So you're at the back end of that schedule. So you're probably around 5% right now.
What he's saying is when you first issued, you'd have a range from 2 to 5, and it was probably 3.75. But I didn't have the range. Now that a lot of the ones within the 2 and 3 range have matured, you're looking at 4s and 5s. So the coupon is actually probably higher in the savings.
Sure. That makes sense.
We will provide that number later. I did not have that available, though.
Right.
At the original kind of TIC.
So with that process, showing a very clear, outright winner, And it is, I mean, the market really is over 3%. What's amazing right now, and I'm sure you guys are in tune to what's going on in the markets. I mean, you've seen mortgage rates and whatnot. I mean, with the Fed action a couple of weeks ago, you know, when we started running numbers for the city to look at this, and this wasn't that long ago, this was fairly recently, the interest rate was 2.40%. So 34 basis points in like that. So that just also goes to show how useful it is to be able to obtain an interest rate lock because of how fast the markets are moving. And an interest rate lock you're able to obtain that interest rate lock when you do a direct placement, as opposed to going out to the capital markets.
Jeff, our recommendation is to go with First Foundation Bank. They have provided a bid of 274, which is good until you close this loan. But it's important, as I noted before, that it works very much like a mortgage rate. You lock in a mortgage, you're locked in. But the capital markets, bond pricing, does not work that way. You decide to issue a bond, and on the exact day of pricing, you determine that rate. So this works much more like people are accustomed to in a mortgage, like, hey, I can get a 3%, they lock you in. That's what the advantages of the private placement and why we'd recommend to go this route. Otherwise, we'd be basically waiting another 60 days, and we already know the Feds are going to probably hit again. You know?
Is the rate fixed for the term of the loan till?
Yes, yeah, so that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
Fixed
there any-
before you lock in the deal, and then fixed for the remainder of the issue.
And can it be extinguished early without payment or?
Yeah, let me go over those terms for the prepayment options that were offered that are actually negotiable. So if there was some way, if you had some feedback for me to further negotiate, we could bring that to the table. But what's been offered right now, as far as prepayment goes, is it would be callable at par, meaning zero prepayment penalty after 6 years. So the standard in the public bond market, it's 10 years usually. So this is a bit earlier. Now, 6 years is pretty fair considering the fact that the final maturity is 2034. So it's not like you have 20 or 30 years left. You don't have a whole lot of time left.
Does that make sense, Russell?
Yeah, I'm curious, is there any type of collateral put up for this?
The collateral is the lien on the special tax. So similar, it doesn't change. The collateral.
The income stream is the collateral.
Well, no, actually, it's the home.
It's the home.
The home itself.
Right. The home.
Yes, you place a lien on yourself to finance this process. I don't know, sometimes they'll do, HOAs have an assessment that you impose on yourself and you have to pay that tax. So it's a tax just like a property tax. If you don't pay it, then in fact, in bankruptcy, in those proceedings, if you don't pay that tax, then they can take your home from you.
But I want to make very clear, there is no change to the collateral on this refinancing as what was originally issued.
That's right.
We are not changing that. We're not increasing the collateral. We're actually reducing the collateral because we're reducing the reserve fund requirement.
But it is a special property tax. It operates just like your 1%. You add another like 12 basis points, and you have to pay this. And if someone didn't pay their taxes for a number of years, then this wouldn't cause you to lose that, but it would be another lien that the county would have. Both.
These are paid by the homeowner to the county.
Yes,
It's
that's
collected via the property tax, it's on the property tax statement, and so if in fact they default, then there's lien placed, and when the property is sold, then the bank then has first rights. I don't know exactly how the priority is, but it's right up there with the other mortgage holders for compensation for that. Does it still retain its tax exempt status when the bond is refinanced like this?
Yes, it does. And so that's a good question. It certainly does. But so that's another part of this. We have to close. We're going to close in June, and the bonds will be called in September. Okay, because that's their call date. We cannot close earlier than June, because if we close any earlier than June, that would be deemed what's called an advanced refinancing, which the IRS has prohibited. So it will remain tax exempt.
You have a 90-day period before the actual call date on September 1st in which you can refinance a bond. In the old days, you could do it more than 90 days, but the federal taxes have been changed to disallow that.
But First Foundation is committed to lock the loan now until
That is correct, sir.
the loan closes.
That's right.
Are there any city approvals required of this, just the city council? You don't have to treat it like a bond issue or anything like that?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, the city would have to, so what, I believe the way the process would work is if the finance committee so chooses to approve proceeding, then the finance team would get to work. Your attorneys would go and bond counsel would go produce documents that would be presented back to council. Stephen, I don't know if you had further comment on that.
Yeah, just to read off, the staff recommendation is for the Finance Committee to recommend that City Council first authorize the refunding of the 2012 special tax refunding bonds for this CFD with a private placement loan. Second, authorize the engagement of the financing team relating to the issuance of such bonds in the fiscal impact. It identifies the cost of the financing team, which is factored into the the information you've been given for the proceeds after the borrowing. And then third, authorize the city manager to sign any requisite legal documents related thereto. Go ahead.
Only question I had on that, on the staff report, it says it should be noted that the city would be responsible for the additional transaction fees, which may be paid from the proceeds. The question is the word may. Does that mean that it might not be paid to the proceeds?
I think that's your discretion. I believe if you wanted to pay it out of pocket, you could, but
And why would we want to do that? Just curious.
It's a good point. We would be intending to use it out of the proceeds.
Can we change the word may to shall?
In our staff report going to City Council, we will do that.
I would like to see that.
All right, very good.
fair enough.
It all seems pretty straightforward and simple to me.
It's very,
No liability, no additional liability to the city lock-in, low interest rate in a rising interest rate environment. It's only 12 more years. It's better for the homeowners. It saved them quite a bit of money, so seems simple to me.
I just had one question. The reserve difference, is that going to be?
It's already been incorporated
It's-
into the financing. It's already been incorporated into the sizing of the refinancing, so that is embedded into the savings number.
Councilmember Garcia, do you have a question on this?
Actually, I realize my packet doesn't sync up to this, so I don't have the entire staff
You
report.
want to look at mine?
I'll have to do it afterwards, but maybe that's something I'll look at on myself afterwards. So I don't have the actual questions for that from the packet.
Uh-oh.
So that's okay.
Are you good with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go back to council anyway for us to take a look at it, so by then,
Yeah, and they'll have more numbers and everything like that?
I'd like to see the details on it, too.
Treasurer Bradley?
So to be clear, we're doing all this work, but not spending any money to get all of these homeowners a savings on their property tax.
Correct.
So we're not incurring any liability, we're just spending the time. Your cost and fees for getting the loan are paid out of the money that they're saving on their property tax. So all we're spending is our time and effort to save all of them a lot of money.
Treasurer, you are facilitating, authorizing the process. Facilitating by using the team that's typically in place, and authorizing because legally you're required to do that in order to refinance it. And yes, they are saving a significant amount of money. Like a direct check back to those property owners.
I'm happy to make the motion that we authorize the refinancing of the 2012 special tax refunding bonds for CFD 2003-2, improvement area number 1 with the private placement loan, and authorize the engagement of the financing team related to the issuance of such bonds, and authorize the city manager to sign any requisite legal documents relating thereto. Oh, finally heard it. Any second?
I'll second it, but it will go to council before you guys move forward with this.
Absolutely. The recommendation is that you recommend that council.
go to council.
Yep.
Okay, I'll second that.
Does anybody have any other discussion on this, questions? Okay, Kevin Webb, what would you, yes or no?
I'm a little bit confused. I know we don't have voting power on that.
Oh,
They're advisory members.
I am so
You- you
sorry,
can
I forgot
ask
that.
for
I
their
just,
input, but-
you guys have given so much input, I just love it, so I just wanted to let you guys vote too. Okay, Treasurer Bradley? Yes. Janice Elliott, yes. Carlos Garcia? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
If you don't mind, Chair, in an effort to just give a little bit of a heads up, our next meeting is just a month away. I can talk about that briefly.
Please do, thank you.
I apologize for bringing you here for just this one item, everyone. I normally wouldn't want to do that, but because we knew that we were in an interest rising environment and private placement can lock it in, and that's great. But if we waited 4 more weeks, we just don't know how much more savings we would have lost for the residents, and so that's why we called this special meeting. At our forthcoming meeting in 4 weeks, we'll be discussing an investment report revision. We've contracted with PFM to do a whole-scale revision of our investment report. California Municipal Treasurers Association has an award that they provide if you have met certain qualifications in your investment policy. And so we're looking to do a wholesale look at the investment policy and then submit it to CMTA for that approval. So we'll be reviewing that the suggested revisions. The investment policy is something that's looked at every year anyway, and April is the last meeting prior to June 30th when we would want it to be approved by council. So that's one item. We'll be doing our regular quarterly update on the investment pool and a look at sales tax, the quarterly update that we get from HDL there as well. And the fourth item isn't coming to my mind right now, so I'll leave you in suspense, bated breath, waiting for our next meeting. And I appreciate you guys all working this extra meeting into your schedule.
Thank you very much. So without further ado, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in if you're watching. See you at the next meeting. Oh, I was thrilled to post this today.